Pleasure to welcome to the show pro box goalie, Philadelphia Wings, Deacan Knott. Deacan, how are we doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on. It's going to be tons of fun. I was saying just before we hit record, probably only the second pure box goalie I've had on the show. My background's obviously with the field game, so we're going to learn. I'm ask you a bunch of questions about the box game, but
Yep.
I would love to hear when you first jumped into goal. You remember that story?
Yeah. So I started out as a hockey goalie whenever I was just really young, and a few people from the Peterborough here in Ontario organization, they kind of approached me and asked if I ever want to try lacrosse, and they kind of just threw me a net, and I ended up falling in love with it. I believe I was 9 years old.
I love it. So in Ontario, you get your snowshoes and you get your lacrosse stick. Is that kind of how it works up there? Or
Yep. Yeah. Pretty much. That's kind of how it goes.
I like it. So you had that ice hockey goalie background, which to me, like when I think about it, very similar to the box goalie position, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Like I played decently high level in hockey as well, so I was kind of around there, and you got to get both best of both worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. So was it something, would you say, I guess they put you in there from that young age. You're the ice hockey goalie. Let's try him out as the box goalie. Did you like it right away? I mean, you obviously stuck with it, so I gotta assume so.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Like I started out as a player in hockey, and I always wanted to be a goalie. So it was just kind of like anything I can get thrown at me or shot at me, I loved it. So
Yeah. What do you think it is about the goalie position that you like so much?
um, it's kind of just like there's only one of you out there on each team, so it's a pretty exciting feeling because you get, well, most part you get to play all games. So
Yeah. Yeah, that feeling of making a save, right? I mean, like you've
yeah,
got the it's like you've got the spotlight on you. It's like being in the finals of a game show, like everyone's looking at you, and then boom, you get the right answer. And it's just like
yep,
such a rewarding feeling, I feel like.
yeah, for sure.
So Evan, who works for me, is also a box goalie, and was telling me that Peterborough is quite the hotbed of box lacrosse.
Yeah, yeah.
How'd you go about learning, how to be a great box goalie?
Yeah, so I started in Peterborough. I pretty well finished my entire career in minor and junior in Peterborough, and I mean it's kind of the hot spot, especially for really good goalies as well. Like we have Matt Vink, like Glenn and Kells is in Peterborough. Drew Hutcherson, like a lot of great goalies have come out of Peterborough. So it's kind of like it's nice to have those role models, especially so close to you.
And are those the guys that you learn from? I imagine, lacrosse is a pretty small knit community, the sport
Yeah.
lacrosse. Then you go box lacrosse. That's like a sub niche within that. Then you go box lacrosse goalie. And now we're talking about like a super small niche. And I imagine like most goalies, from what I've heard, are pretty open to helping other goalies. Are those the guys you learn from?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like it's great having well those guys, and I'm definitely missing a lot of names as well, but everyone just being on the floor and learning from each other and things like that, especially for me being so young and growing up watching these guys, it's kind of like you get that competitiveness as well, and it's pretty cool being able to watch them so close.
Yeah. And what kind of things would you say you're learning? Is it like just the way they stand? Is it the way like, oh, like, this guy threw amazing fake and I saw what he did, like maybe he lifted his shoulder, but then went for it. Is it things like that? Or what would you say you learn from them?
Yeah, for sure. It's style, it's positioning, it's things that they do on certain shots that you can compare to or even just learn from, like just watching.
Yeah.
But it's things that like you don't even think about. It's just okay, they make a shoulder save off this kind of step. They get across the crease this way. Um, yeah, so it's a lot of
Yeah.
just kind of like give and take for each other.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's just little things like okay, he's standing this way, he's playing this way. Like it's just his style, the way he's standing, the way he's holding his stick, like just stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine, I mean, that's how I learned the field lacrosse goalie position mostly, is just kind of watching the older guy on my team and like, oh, there's a shot from 8 yards, step down. I kind of see how he approached it and what he did, right? And then
Yeah.
you do that, and so you just kind of replicate what you see.
Yeah, for sure. And like that goes with like being in Philly and being around Zach Higgins. I trained with him a little bit before COVID, and just I really found a big change in my style of playing and my stance and just like how I see the ball and read it. Just from Higgy, just the way he stands, and I kind of incorporated that stuff into how I played, especially this year in junior A, and yeah, it helped a lot.
Interesting. Interesting. What did you change? Because we talk about in the field game, like you could change the width of your base. Like some goalies go super wide, right? Get that super wide
Yeah.
stance. Others go a little bit more narrow. Is that one of the things?
Yeah, that's honestly pretty much most of it.
Oh.
He kind of it's funny because I used to stand so upright, like straight legs, and just kind of like I was always a very small goalie, so
Mhm.
I kind of had to move quite a bit. But just watching Higgy, and especially playing with him this year, just wider base, like his knees are kind of in, it's easier to go up and down. But just like small little things like that, and especially like it's not going to be exactly the same, like we're different builds and stuff like that, but yeah, like similar things like that.
Interesting. Yeah. You mentioned being a little bit smaller. So there's this trend, like, in NHL goalies is like, they're huge. You look at those guys are
Yeah.
like 6'4", 6'5", because they're so big. They
Yeah.
take up so much of the goal. Is that sort of the trend with box lacrosse goalies as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of always an ongoing joke that some teams just find the biggest guy and slap him in net, and hopefully it does the job. But yeah, there's, especially now too in the NLL, a lot of smaller goalies, but there's also a lot of big guys like well, Wardo for one. He's a big
Yeah.
tall guy.
Right.
But yeah, I was always small growing up. Like I think my freshman year of high school, I was 5'1", and
Yeah.
hit a big growth spurt, and yeah, I'm kind of in like the middle range of goalies now, which I'm pretty happy with. It's not too big, not too small, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. So does that, and I guess that would have to impact how you play, right?
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, like, and it's funny because there's a lot of people, especially coaches, they kind of say like 5'11" to 6'1" is kind of like the perfect area because your shoulders are where they're supposed to be. They're not over the bar, they're not too far under, which is kind of how it goes now.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. What would be your advice though to those young goalies who like are just starting out and they are 5'1"? Because that's, when a lot of youth kids throw on the pads for
Yep.
the first time, like you haven't hit that
Yep.
growth spurt yet. So what do you say to them?
Just learn and adapt, because like you'll move and you'll find stuff that works, you find stuff that doesn't work, and it's just keep at it, like really keep at it, because you'll grow, and if you don't grow, then you'll adapt, and it'll be you'll find your own way of playing, your own style, and then you'll make it work for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I always have this difficult well, some young goalies, because the field goal 6 foot, right? So it's a lot taller. And so when that
Yeah.
goalie is really small, they say, well, like I have trouble with these high shots. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want you to like adjust your stance so that when you grow, you're gonna have to like readjust to play
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it sounds like, with that smaller goal, stick with it. You're gonna grow. Do you have to then maybe challenge the shooter a little bit more, take up a little more of the goal, or not necessarily?
Yeah, like that's like one thing with adapting as well. Like once you get better shots on you, like you start getting older, like especially if you're a young kid, shots are getting harder, shots are getting better,
Yeah.
and like sometimes you'll get caught whenever you're too far out, and they'll just kind of put it over top of you. So you kind of have to like work with spacing that way, but obviously you want to challenge and take the angle away, especially as a smaller goalie. But and that was myself too. Like I still kind of get caught on it the odd time where like I'm still used to being kind of small. I like the challenge. I like to be big, but then they kind of get in close and put it over top of you. So I'm starting to
Yeah.
learn a little bit to sit on my line, but yeah.
I like it. Yeah, I talked with Dobson a lot, Brett Dobson, about the
Yep.
box goalie position. And one of the like the main differences is like in the field goalie, like when the shot comes, you sort of explode through that shot and you really like, you really explode. And in box, you don't do that. You just kind of like, go for it a
Take
little
the
bit with
angle.
your
Yeah.
go for a little bit with your body because the fakes are so easy and so common that like if I go all the way through it, then guess what? I've left the goal wide open. Is that
Yeah.
accurate? Would you add anything to that?
Oh yeah, that's very accurate. Especially like I played a little bit of field goalie as well in high school, and can kind of say that as well, where you want to explode the ball in field, but if you do that, you're kind of left hanging in the box.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about, so there's like two surfaces that you guys play on, right? Like one is just straight concrete, like cement, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the other one's more of like I don't even know, like an indoor soccer or like turf, I guess would be the
yeah,
best way to describe it. What do you
yeah,
prefer and does your game change on either one?
yeah. So playing through the summer this year in junior A, both of my well, I got traded from Peterborough to Burlington this year, and both of those arenas were concrete. And most of the junior A arenas were. We did have a few that did have turf in it, but yeah, your style kind of gets mixed up a little bit, and it's I kind of found that it was kind of nice to play on the concrete because you have a little bit of forgiveness with sliding. You could go down a little bit easier, just kind of stuff like that. But obviously, it is a little bit harder to see the ball in the gray concrete than the green turf.
Oh
But
yeah.
but yeah, like in the NLL, it's full turf and it's great. It's you can read the ball, especially off the bounces, off the swings, everything like that. But yeah, I would rather play on turf. Just it's a little bit more forgiving. You're not sliding and getting hurt, and it's kind of nice that way.
Yeah. Love it. It sounds like you grew up in a hotbed. You had a lot of people to shoot on you. Um,
Yeah.
what would be your advice? Because when I talk with youth goalies, sometimes I get questions about box, and the main thing is like I don't have anybody to practice with. I don't have any resources. How would you recommend a youth goalie, go about improving their game when they're in that scenario?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and like it's kind of nice being in that hot spot for sure. But I'm about 45 minutes outside of the hot spot where
Mm,
we're out in the country here, and it's not too big of a sport out here compared to in Peterborough. So we'd have this little net, and I'd suit up and let my dad shoot on me in the backyard and in the driveway, and just kind of take shots and take reps as much as I can, just see the ball, kind of figure out different stances, different styles of play and stuff like that. But just try and find like if you have a friend that has a stick or whatever, just kind of just try and take reps and take shots, and the more shots the better.
yeah. And that's yeah, great advice, right? I mean, you just find anybody you can to
Yeah,
shoot on you. I mean, odds are if you're playing lacrosse, you can find a shooter. So yeah, and maybe you have to drive 45 minutes, but well worth it. And
yeah,
I do think those reps is probably the most important thing. I say that in the field game too, is just seeing those reps. And
yeah.
I think field goalies should play box because you see so many reps and you see so many
Mhm.
different release points and fakes, and just getting used to that just kind of adds to your I don't know, your vocabulary of shots that you've seen. Would do you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. Especially like if you are a field goalie and a box goalie. In box, you see those uptight shots a lot, where you can kind of read those different release points and different angles of shots, especially if they're coming at you full tilt.
Yeah.
Um, where I know in field it's not nice taking them off the legs from in tight, but box you can kind of withstand it for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Now, are you as a box goalie? Do you ever like get hit in the skin, or like are you covered
Oh yeah.
head to toe in pads?
Yeah, oh yeah, you still feel it quite a bit. Like there's still quite a few spots that you can really feel it. Like anything in the hands usually stings quite a bit.
Okay.
Um, Sometimes wrists, like
But
right
you don't
below.
have those big like bulky warrior fat head gloves,
Oh
or
yeah, yeah,
even
we
through
do.
those?
Yep, yeah.
Yeah.
Like anything in the fingers. Like sometimes we get hit in the toes, the knees hurt. sometimes you get little stingers inside the legs that you just feel it, especially with the shots that like the highest caliber in the NLL. It's you feel it sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you how do you deal with rebounds? That's kind of an interesting like difference between field and box. Is it kind of like ice hockey where I'm just trying to like rebound it to like the side so it's not quite right in the middle, or is there something else?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the biggest thing. It's so similar to hockey where you want to kind of put it into the corners or kind of smother it as much as you can. But even just playing, you kind of figure out, okay, the ball will stick if it hits me in the arm. I can kind of smother it in there and stop it.
Mhm.
Or like if it's a low 5-hole shot and you can kind of smother it that way. Or if it's coming towards your legs, you can kind of angle your leg and push it to the corner. It's just little stuff like that, especially like with the big shoulders as well. You can kind of get it up and sometimes like it's a lot of just reading the ball and reading where it's coming from, how it's coming at you, and just how hard the shot and just kind of stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, because that's another pretty common question I get from the youngsters. It's like, how do I control rebound? So yeah, I guess there's a lot of give in the pads and in the arms.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
all right, good to know. Good to know. Um, there was a clip that went viral. I think it went viral. I don't know. I saw it a bunch of times, and I
Yeah.
actually forget who it was. Maybe it was Chris Gray. Like he kind of throws like a changeup, right? Have you you know what I'm talking about? Where like he doesn't shoot that hard, but he stings a corner, and it kind of looks like the goalie's leaning. Did you see this clip or no?
Was it in box?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Okay.
so. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about it because in my mind, he didn't shoot that hard, but I think what was happening is it looked like it was a power play. And I think what
Yeah.
was happening is he kind of like faked like it was going to be a pass and got that
Yeah.
goalie leaning. Is that, do you,
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's crazy how much you see that, especially in the NLL with the better shooters and just kind of harder to read releases. That a lot of the guys, it's crazy because they'll try and get you with a twister or get you with like a looking far side, but they really rip it back for, like short side, and it gets a lot harder to read.
Mhm.
But you kind of see with a lot of guys, they're not putting everything into all their shots. It's a lot of just kind of perfect placement, and
Mm.
that's tough sometimes whenever you're expecting a 100-mile-an-hour rocket at you.
Yeah. How do you read the fakes? Because those guys can throw some crazy fakes. Like,
Yeah,
I never
yeah,
seen so many like fakes thrown so quickly right on the doorstep. And I'm like, if that's me, I'm biting on all those fakes.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of goes with experience and stuff like that too. Like you kind of know like if they're not going this way, then they kind of are going to go around you if they do throw that. But it's a lot of kind of what you said with feel. You're exploding the ball, box. You're sitting back a little bit, but yeah, like you're not hitting on every fake, and it's more or less just get in the way and try and take up as much net as you can, especially if they're coming right across the doorstep.
Yeah. Yeah. What about one on nothings? So that's like, I mean, that happens in box. It happens in field too, but way, way less common, right? But you could
Yeah.
get some breakaways. What do you do on those one on nothings?
Yeah, it's a lot of just mind games too, like with playing against each other and stuff like that. It's I personally just like to be as big as I can, feet on the post and just kind of wait them out, and then maybe give them a little short side something, or if it's a righty, then I like to let them push it far side, like just kind of little stuff like that, where with experience you can kind of know your strong suit, and you kind of just play mind games with them. Okay, I'm giving you this, but
Yeah.
are you shoot it there? That's kind of the it's an educated guess. Yeah, it's an educated guess
Yeah.
most part.
I'm giving you this, but does he know I'm giving him that?
Yeah,
And does he know that I know him giving him
yeah,
that?
yeah, exactly.
Um, do you use a lot of baiting normally or not so much?
It's kind of funny with junior A. I could bait them a little bit, especially if it's like an outside shot. I'm gonna give them. Okay, I know this guy likes to shoot here. I'm gonna give him a little bit where he likes to shoot and just take it away. But NLL, you can't do that because they'll just beat you anyways.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah.
yeah, it's very very minimal stuff that you can do with just like your stance, your positioning, stuff like that. But yeah, it gets harder and harder to bait, especially whenever you get to the better shooters.
Yeah. I love it. I noticed you used the when I was watching some highlights, you used the wooden stick.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. Is just because it's bigger, or does it have some sort of other significance?
Yeah. Well, it's actually funny. Last year was, I guess, yeah, not this past summer, but the year before was my first real like junior A year that I can start. I played pretty well every game, um, and my coaches all played in the NLL, and I'm like, I like the small stick, like I like the spoon, like it's kind of nice to use. It's nice and light. I can move with it. And they said, no, no, you've always played with a woody. It's harder to just go with a woody. Just use it. So I went back to it, and luckily I know quite a few people that can custom make me my woodies. So I kind of get used to it that way, and then I can fine tune it with sanding it down or whatever. And I string all my sticks too, so it's passing wise. I kind of make it throw like a plastic stick, but yeah, it's more or less just it's a lot bigger. It's harder to score on.
A lot bigger, yeah. Who does make those? Where can I get one?
So I have a guy in Six Nations, and his name is W Palace. He custom makes all of my sticks.
Love it. Love it. All right. We'll have to hit him up, see if he's taking orders.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I have like a huge collection of sticks. So I would love to get my hands on one. That'd be awesome.
Yep. Yeah.
And then a lot of box goalies use a super long shaft. Like even if you're using the spoon, the plastic head, the shaft is super long. Is that because when I scoop it up now, I can and I lift it up to throw, like my stick is, the release point is so much taller than all the other guys, or is there something else there?
I don't even know where it kind of started. Like I know a lot of guys use smaller sticks. Like even now, like they like to cut their woodies super short. But it is nice having like the extra length, especially whenever you're kind of stepping out and challenging. You can just kind of click your post and you can feel where you are in the net. But it's also whenever you slide out and you're gonna throw, it's just easy to have that long stick. It's not getting caught up in your shoulders. Like whenever you go and get in your stance, it's kind of a combination of things, but it's a little nicer. Like you kind of find the balance where sometimes it's too long and it gets caught up. Sometimes it's too short and it gets caught up in your shoulders, and it's just you kind of find that nice balance.
Love it. Love it. You mentioned positioning there, like kind of clicking the post. How do if there's a young goalie that wants to work on their positioning, are there specific drills you can recommend?
Yeah. Like I always, well, especially going back to hockey, just similar positionings to that, where it's like you're on your post, you kind of line up with where the blue line or the straining line touches the boards, and then that's another one, and then like center, and then kind of reverse on the other side. Just kind of like working out and just starting on your line and going out to one position, coming back, going out to another position, and just kind of working on footwork. And then it kind of comes second nature to you where, okay, I know I'm here. I know I'm here. And it's just like it's holding on to your post with your glove or clicking it with your stick. It just kind of gets easier and easier, just letting reps.
Yeah. Interesting. So as a box goalie, like, if they have the ball and it's like in, side right, and they pass it up top, right? You as a goalie, you're moving on your arc to match up with that shooter top center, right?
Yeah.
What about if they carry that ball, by foot, right? They carry it. Are you like doing little steps to adjust your arc, or is there like a rule of thumb that you have? Like, when do you move, I guess would be the question.
Yeah, for sure. Like I always like to kind of play back on my line, so you're not getting caught way out where it's not like you're giving them up that short side or that far side if they're moving, or if they're even just throwing those quick skip passes. It's nice to kind of feel where you are in your net, and then you can say, okay, like I know I'm here, but if you're throwing it, I'm just gonna take one step and I'm taking that away now. So if they're looking like they're gonna challenge and shoot, that's whenever you can kind of step out and take the angle away. But yeah, like just even off swings, I always like, especially like penalty kill situations where the ball's moving so many times and they're not really getting challenged as much as 5-on-5, where you can kind of just sit back and just say, okay, I'm here. I'm still still challenging you. But if you're stepping down, I'm going to take the angle away a little bit more. And it's just like, you always kind of know you have that small little arc right off your line, which is kind of nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing with the field game, right? As you're deeper in the goal, the movement is a lot easier, right? I don't have to move as much to be in the right position. And then as the shot is imminent, then maybe I take a step out and kind of cut down that angle.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of field goalies that do, I call it the hop, which I learned from Galloway, but it's kind of like just a little like reset of the weight, right? Like a little jump to kind of reset my weight. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yep.
Do you do that as a box goalie or no?
Yeah. Like it's kind of funny. My dad actually, I don't even know what he calls it, but he always laughs at me whenever I do it. But just like if I see a shooter coming down, and I know he's kind of coming in, I kind of hop into my stance and get ready. But it's just a little hop I do, and it's more or less just getting ready for the shot. But if it's more of like a reset, then I always just kind of like come back, touch my posts. I know where I am, and then it's kind of like a reset that way.
Yeah, I love it. What about the mental side of the game? Obviously, both in box lacrosse and field lacrosse, giving up a goal as a goalie, it's brutal. Right?
Yeah.
What do you have sort of a post goal routine that you go through?
Yeah, it's I wouldn't per se a post goal routine, but it's more just kind of talking to myself, saying, okay, you could have did this, you could have did that, try and do this. And if it's like this huge backdoor to backdoor goal and it's a goal, I'm just like, all right, whatever, it's one goal. Like
Right.
it's okay, we'll get it back. But yeah, like there's certain things, especially like I know that you can kind of contest it. Goalies are weird. And we have our own rituals and kind of superstitions, things that we do, especially if we get in the cage. And like I do that every time I leave my crease. I always come back and I'm just like, okay, I'm in my crease. It's game on. Like that's kind of how I go about it. And goals happen, but try and minimize them as much as you can. But yeah, like post goal stuff, I don't really think about too much.
Okay. What about other sort of mental game lessons or tricks or things you've learned along the way? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, well, and especially this year in junior, a lot of kind of adversity on the floor because especially in playoffs, we played against St. Catherine's first round, and their fans were ruthless, and they're giving it to me the whole game, and then we ended up beating them out, and then going on to round two against Mimico, and that was probably the worst like razzing I got. Like just the entire barn was going crazy and just directed at me, and it's just I just smile and laugh, and I just wave at them like, "Yep, you're calling me right now. That's awesome." So just kind of like you play mind games with yourself, with them, with kind of everybody, especially players. Like if they're going at you, it's just like, yeah, we're in a game. I get it, but yeah, it's just so many different things that like, especially this year, kind of had to find diversity through, and yeah.
I love it. Yeah, that's so key. I mean, like you just ignore it, right? Like the moment that you then react to those fans or you react to, someone talking trash is like they win. Like that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get a reaction out of you. And if they see that, and it doesn't even matter like what the reaction is, if they see that, like they won, right? And then they go harder.
Yeah, for sure.
And I heard the Canadians are pretty famous for trash talking too. You heard any particular good lines that are podcast friendly?
Yeah, yeah. There was a lot like, and it was hilarious this year. We played against Orangeville in the finals of our junior A, and they were 27-0, and we ended up beating them game one. And they made this big sign behind me, and it said number 30, you're a pigeon, with and like on my helmet I have like Beaker the Muppet, and they put up Beaker on the sign, and I'm like, That's awesome. That's so cool. Like it was pretty cool, but yeah, it's just stuff like you just gotta laugh about it sometimes.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, you guys ended up winning the championship, am I right?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah, we ended
go.
up winning the Ontario Championship, and then we went out west to Edmonton, and we ended up taking the Minto Cup home in all of Canada.
I love it. Yeah, I Evan made some notes for me. He said 2023 Minto Cup champion with the Burlington
Yep.
Blaze.
Yep.
Which is like what all it's the entire Canadian like there's talk
Yep.
to me about how it works. There's different leagues and then the champions of that league play in the Minto Cup.
Yeah. So there's like Ontario, so the OJLL, that was our
Oh,
Ontario league, and I think there's 16 teams or something like that. And then there was Alberta, Saskatchewan, British Columbia. I think that was all who was there this year. Um, but every province, or I guess every league that's in it, can take one like their one team, and that's like their champion team, unless
got it.
it's the province that's hosting. Then you get two teams.
Okay.
But yeah, so Alberta hosted this year, so there was the four teams out there. Yeah, it was a pretty awesome time out there.
Yeah. And then it's just a single elimination tournament.
It was kind of kind of weird how it was set up, but it was so four teams. Each team played in a round robin,
Okay.
and then the first place team got a bye to the finals, and then number two and number three played against each other in a semifinal, and then went on to a two game or best of three finals.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, congrats
Yeah,
on that. Congrats on that.
yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
What do you get? You get a belt, you get a ring, you get a plaque.
We actually have our ring ceremony and banquet just after Christmas. So we get rings. We're getting like high school Letterman leather
Yeah,
jackets.
let's go. All right.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Cool. Well, congratulations on that. Um, let's see here. What else should we talk
Thank
about?
you.
Then you get drafted by the Wings. Yeah, second round, 38th
Yeah,
overall, 2022. Talk to me about that feeling.
yeah. It was incredible. Like it was. I played for Canada with the World Juniors in Winnipeg the summer, like during the summer, and I entered the draft and everything was great. A bunch of guys on my team entered the draft, and it was incredible. Like I was kind of okay. I'm here now. Like this is my dream to make it here, and then I went to the draft. Luckily, it was in Toronto, and it was the most surreal kind of crazy feeling. I had my parents with me, my sister. Um, Everyone kind of came to the draft, and you could hear them call your name, it was pretty incredible. It was kind of like everything starting to line up, especially like I've dreamed about it for so long. But and going to Philly as well, like a lot of guys from Peterborough. Um, are on the wings, so I kind
Mm,
of already knew people there, and it was a pretty crazy feeling.
love it. Well, congrats. I was going to ask. So we talked a little bit about already. You know what you learned. Once you get there. But I mean, I don't know. Does your game change dramatically, or just kind of little minor things that you're tweaking now?
Yeah, well, a little bit of both. It was kind of well, and that's what I said about like learning from Higgy in Philly and learning different styles and just kind of how to take this shot, how to take this shot, and seeing those just well top caliber shots. Um, it was it was a kind of rude awakening whenever I thought I was doing pretty well, and then they were lighting me up left and right. So you kind of adjust things off the fly, like on the fly, and just kind of on and off the floor. But yeah, it's little things where okay, I want to stand here, I want to stand back a little bit, I gotta exaggerate my shoulders a little bit more, I gotta move a little bit more, kind of close up my five. Well, just little things like that where you got to adjust it. But in
Yeah.
the kind of broad spectrum of things, that's a lot to change.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it does help quite a bit, especially whenever you get to those higher caliber shots.
Yeah. And so we're recording this December 6th. You guys, the NLL season's underway. Yeah. I think you guys just
Yeah.
had week 1 last week. How does it work? Is it like the PLL where like the guys all got jobs and maybe you get together Friday and have a practice and then play on Saturday and then they all go back to their respective cities? Is it like that?
Yeah, for sure. It's a lot where, well, it's every weekend where we'll fly in. If it's a Saturday game, we'll fly in Friday, have a practice Friday, have a morning shoot around, and then right into the game, and then just kind of have dinner after, and then we'll fly home the next day, or if it's relatively close, then we'll drive home. But yeah, it's pretty similar like that.
Got it. Cool. In Philadelphia, you play with one of the best field goalies in the world, Blaze. And
Yeah.
he plays like he doesn't play goalie. Do you ever tell him, hey Blaze, you gotta strap on the pads and give it a run?
Oh yeah, it's been kind of a renowned joke here and there where we're like, all right, yeah, Blazer, just suit up, let us shoot on you and see how different it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of just like a little joke, but yeah, I'm sure you do pretty well in box as well.
Oh, well, he's a tremendous athlete. And just, yeah, I mean, just, being comfortable of someone ripping, 90-mile-an-hour shot at you, like that's like 90% of the battle right there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And now you got gear on, so you don't have to worry about getting hit in the
Exactly.
legs
Yeah.
or
Probably a
the
lot less flinching.
yeah.
I remember after I played my first box game, I was drenched, like so sweat, like exhausted, because you have all that gear on, and like you think like, well, you're a goalie, you're not moving that much, but like
Yeah.
the gear gets heavy and you get sweaty. Do you do a lot of like conditioning work?
Yeah, it's well, and especially it's really nice being in Philly where our trainer and our all of our fitness guys and everyone's in really great shape. So it's nice that we have like training regiments with conditioning, with weightlifting, a whole bunch of stuff. But it's a lot of just you sweat a lot, still stay hydrated and just kind of try and weather the storm as it comes. But yeah, conditioning is huge, especially whenever you're in your equipment and you're on the floor where you're taking those steps, like the angles and just everything like that, where you're constantly working, and some things can be a leg burner, but especially in practice, like you get drills that'll they'll gas you,
Yeah,
but yeah, for sure, it's a lot of conditioning as well.
love it. Well, Deacon, thank you so much for coming on, sharing kind of your experience, your story. Wish you luck in this season and in the future. A question on the gear: do all the box goalies pretty much wear the same gear, like pads
Yeah,
wise, or is there preferences
yeah,
there?
yeah. So like there's different things with like helmets, with gloves, sticks and stuff like that. It's a lot of preference that way.
Yeah.
But like the main gear, like our legs, our pants, our shoulders, they're all made by Bodum,
Yep.
and everyone gets the same gear. Like every year, it's provided by the league. Um,
Oh, okay.
you get measured and you get sized and like a whole bunch of different things that go through it. But it just oops, our dogs are going crazy.
All
But
good.
uh, but yeah, it's a lot of everyone kind of wears the generally same stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I heard that they're making a push to make box goalies pads smaller. Have you heard anything
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, like in the previous years, NLL gear is a little bit smaller than stuff that you'd say go buy at a store,
Oh, okay.
but it's a lot of just this measurements wise, like weight, your shoulders, your hips, like just kind of stuff like that. But yeah, it's more or less just like they want your equipment to fit you properly, where you're not just throwing on, like you're not a 150-pound guy throwing on quadruple XL stuff. It's just they
Yeah.
want you to be in the right category.
Yeah. Is there a good spot to get cheap gear?
Yeah, it's there's a lot of places around here because we're well over in the hot spot, which is kind of
Yeah.
nice. But yeah, it's kind of harder, especially to find down in the States.
Yeah.
I did play a little bit of winter box down there, and it's you see a little less than back home for sure. But yeah, it's kind of well, even for me, I had to get a couple new pairs of pads this year for summer league, and it was getting harder and harder to find.
Yeah. That was one question I don't really know anything about. I mean, I know there's a Box Lacrosse Goalie Facebook group that I see some people. So I see some people from time to time, doing selling used gear. But a lot of times, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but the rinks that you go and play at, like, sometimes they have like an extra set. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and like it's kind of nice because now they're getting more and more lacrosse rinks, not just hockey rinks where they have ice in all year round, and then they throw the turf on or take the ice out, where it's more just a lacrosse rink where they'll have maybe an extra set here and there, or they'll have a store in there that'll have used stuff or new stuff, which is kind of nice that they're getting more and more of that now.
Love it. All right, Deacan, that was awesome. If you had to leave the goalies out there with the final piece of advice, what would that be?
Keep going. Just keep going. It'll sometimes it'll get discouraging. There'll be hills and valleys, but yeah, just keep at it.
All right, we'll leave it right there. Deacan, thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Yep. Have a good one.